Hi everyone, this is Rahul Harad, CEO of DeepSafe. We're testing the stream to see if this is working. Um, Let me just give it a few more minutes to see if the stream goes live. Um, Hi everyone, can anyone hear me? Hi everyone, if there's anyone out there, please let me know. Just trying to figure out if the stream is working or not. Doesn't seem to be. Let me try a Hey there, Davern Kam. Um, can can you hear me all right? I'm trying to figure out if the live stream is working or not. We have some technical issues, but we're hoping that it will start working and go live now. Okay. Can you hear me now? Is that any better? Can you hear me now? Not any better? All right. How about now? Is that any better? Can you hear me now? There seems to be a bit of a problem with the sound, so let's try and see how we can make this work. Perfect. Great. Thank you for letting me know. I think we're a little bit delayed because of the issues we had with going live. Thank you for joining directly and fast. Hopefully, the other people will have a chance to do it as well. I'm just giving them a few minutes just to make sure. I don't know if the link that we had provided in the Telegram chat actually links to this stream or not. Could you tell me if you clicked on the link and that's what brought you here, please? Did you come from the link on Telegram, or was there another way to join the stream? Let's see. All right. Okay. Yes, thank you so much. I think that there was an issue with the one that was first posted. Oh, it is working. All right, cool. So let's give people a couple more minutes, and then if not, I guess you and I can have a chat. I'll enable the sound. Let me just text the more savvy stream part of the team, and we can get started. I apologize to keep you waiting. I know you were time. In the meantime, I'll share with you that I'm actually right now in Costa Rica, which is my home country. That's in Central America, spending some time with my family. Whereabouts are you? All right, I see there's a couple of us now. Let's give it just a few more minutes and I will be right back. Hey there, Tiras, good morning. How are you? Or good evening or good night. It seems like we're all in different parts of the world. But as long as this is working, which it seems like it is now, thank you guys for joining. Just having a look to make sure that the link is there. All right, so we'll give everyone just a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. If it's just us, then we'll just have an informal chat. The idea was to go over a little bit of what has been happening in 2025 up to, let's say, September of 2025, not only in the crypto but also in the blockchain world. There have been considerable advances that have make a difference, not only industry wide in general, but also that present an advantage to us at DeepSafe. So let's give everyone just, let's say, 3 more minutes until I guess here it's 9:25 p.m. on Tuesday. I wonder what time it is where you guys are. And what location are you guys in? Maybe in the meantime, you can share with me a little bit about uh, where you are. I'd love to know where people are connected from. All right, India. All right, cool. What part of? I've been to India a couple of times, 4 times actually. I've been to India. I've been to Delhi. I've been to um, Goa. I've been to um, um, Hildebrand, and I've been to um, Mumbai. Yeah, beautiful country, absolutely beautiful, and the people in India are just some of the kindest people I've met. Um, so thank you guys for joining us. I guess we can maybe get started. And if there's anything you guys would like to discuss, given that it's a small group and it's just us, I'm happy to go into any of these topics a little bit further if anyone is. Good morning, guys. There's more people joining us. Great. Morning, guys. Good night where I am. Um, it's nice to see that the stream is working. We had some technical issues. I apologize for that. We were trying to get things live, but there were a few issues with the connection. But let's get started. The idea for today is to look a little bit deeper into what are the trends that have been happening in the crypto and blockchain world as of September of 2025. And we will be holding these live streams a lot more often. The idea, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this, is to maybe in one of them discuss a little bit more of the macro scenarios, in one of them to discuss a little bit more in detail what's going on with DeepSafe. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about the TGE and want to have more information about that. But also to keep you guys just updated in terms of the different happenings within DeepSafe. Now, today's discussion, I framed it a little bit around kind of what is the information that I look at as a CEO to help the team make decisions based on what we see happening in the market, as we see the evolution of different things, and as we see things that are particularly important to DeepSafe. And so I thought today maybe we could discuss a few of the market trends. The first one being the tokenization of real-world assets, which is a big topic right now. It's been growing exponentially. We'll discuss a little bit about what's going on there, a little bit about the evolution in terms of restaking and enhanced security, modular blockchain architecture, which of course is a topic that is very important to us. As you guys probably know, DeepSafe was designed in a modular way so that it could be integrated depending on the needs of the users. Zero knowledge proof, of course, being one of the core technologies that we use. We always keep an eye out on how that's evolving. And then we have DeFi and DAO. There have been quite a few things that have moved there. And I would add to this list another thing that I monitor closely is regulation. So obviously for us, any evolution of regulatory controls is a big topic, and we follow that closely. So given that it's not on the list, maybe let's start with that. We've been looking at the US, in particular, the application for ETFs for Ethereum, Solana, and a few other cryptocurrencies. This, of course, is huge in the sense that it drives not only adoption but growth. And we saw this when ETFs for Bitcoin were approved, and that allowed for a lot of the institutional investors who previously could not participate, let's say, in the cryptocurrency world directly or indirectly because of the risk management. It opened up the market for them. And what we saw was a huge influx of capital. So definitely something to keep an eye out for in the US if the approval for ETFs of Ethereum, Solana, and the other ones that are in the making happen. That, of course, will be a big driver for growth. I expect that we will see a big jump in price for any cryptocurrency who has ETF approval. In Europe, we've seen MiCA, which is the regulation that has been adopted across the European Union for the treatment of cryptocurrencies, taxation related to that, and of course, anything that has to do with the issuance of tokens. And then we have in Hong Kong, since I believe it was August 1st, so a month and a half ago, came into effect the new stablecoin ordinance, which basically guides any issuer of stablecoins, what the procedures, controls, requirements, etc., would be for issuing a stablecoin in Hong Kong. So these are kind of, in terms of regulation, the topics that we're keeping an eye out for, because of course they tend to have an impact not only on what we plan in terms of growth and operation, but also on our users and the people that take advantage of the technology that we've developed. Now, going to the first one of the topics that we've discussed. So one of the main things that we've seen is explosive growth in the tokenization of real-world assets. As you can see there, there's been about a 260% surge in terms of growth. And what we're seeing also is that the tokenization of real-world assets is moving towards more high-value, tangible assets. So we're seeing a lot of real estate being tokenized. We're seeing treasuries and even gold. We've seen gold bullions now being tokenized so that they can be traded on the blockchain. So This allows retail and institutional investors as well to participate not only in the ownership of these real world assets, but interestingly in the ownership of fractional real world assets. So, fractional ownership is a big topic. Being able to own a part of something really can drive a lot of growth. It increases liquidity in the broader system, and it provides more access to markets. So this is a huge win for the industry. We see things. I don't know if any of you, back in the day, maybe I would say it must be like 7 years ago or so, we had Maecenas, which was one of the first to do this, and the first thing that they tokenized was an Andy Warhol painting. So it was very interesting to see how, something like fine art could be tokenized at the time. There was a question about, well, who owns it? How will it be? Who hangs it in a wall? Who gets to enjoy it? And of course, these are things that obviously have to stay in museums or in protected environments. But that was the first case that we saw. We then saw collectibles in terms of like vehicles and very expensive assets that became tokenized so that there could be fractional ownership. And this really has opened up the market for everyone. So if you are an art enthusiast or a car enthusiast or any of these items, you might want to check it out. Some people get excited about the prospect of owning a fraction of a piece of art. And that, of course, is one of the big kind of drivers for this growth. Um, as you can see there, the tokens are usually backed by underlying assets, and they can represent either direct or indirect ownership. And this is done through, usually legally, through what's called a special purpose vehicle, which is basically just created to be the owner of that asset, fractionalize it, and then make it available to the secondary market. Um, Smart contracts, of course, are what facilitates this, and this has been really one of the big items we've seen. So, as I mentioned, real estate is one of the categories that has evolved. Fractional ownership is very big in real estate, so a lot of people, either groups of friends or people that don't know each other but have similar interests in terms of real estate investments, have capitalized on this. As I mentioned, we saw it in fine arts with Maecenas. That was the beginning. But we've seen since Andy Warhol, Picasso's, we've seen Monet, and several of the very well-known artists having their art tokenized. Uh, Really interesting also funds and bonds, and this is a little bit counterintuitive if you think about DeFi and TradFi, right? Traditional finance. So why would we tokenize something that can already be issued on the blockchain? And this is usually done because there are solutions or let's say instruments that already exist, but also because not everyone, from a regulatory standpoint, a lot of the times you have to follow certain, um, regulatory compliance rules, and for a lot of people, it's not allowed, right? For a lot of these institutions, it's not allowed to own directly things that are in the blockchain, and so through the tokenization of these real-world funds and bonds, it opens up the the investment way for these people. We've seen this in supply chain, we've seen it in luxury goods, and as I mentioned before, things like gold, which again are getting tokenized. And this is done because of the ease, basically, of opening a secondary market. As you can imagine, um, trading something like luxury goods can be risky if you do this online. And so you want to make sure that there is a record on the blockchain where you can verify that the asset that you're buying, or even if you're just buying a fraction of the asset, is the original or is an original, and that it is really underlying, let's say, that that token that's fractionalized. Um, I agree. I think I'm looking at the chat that in the future, um most hard real world assets will be tokenized. I agree 100%. I think that, again, it just makes it a lot easier, not only in terms of trade and secondary markets, but it makes it a lot easier to fractionalize this, right? So if we think about, let's say, if you and five of your friends wanted to buy an apartment in, let's say, Spain, right? And so having that immutable, uneditable record allows for a lot more security. And so this has been one of the trends that we're keeping an eye out for. Why? Because as people use DeepSafe to develop these tools, we need to understand what are their needs. We need to understand, in terms of security, which of course is one of the things that being a verification platform is one of the main things. Um, yeah, 100%. I agree. This opens up the market for smaller investors, not just whales or funds. So it is exciting, right? I mean, if you think about it, when would any of us, or maybe there are some in the chat, I don't know, but most of us probably could not afford to buy a Andy Warhol and hang it up in our houses. But this is a way to participate not only in the ownership but also as an investment in terms of appreciation. Um, the another trend that we've seen, as I mentioned earlier, is in restaking and the enhanced security models. So Ethereum's restaking model we've seen grow in 5.8% just in 1 week, and so this really highlights the interest that there is um, for the restaking. And I believe all of you are familiar with restaking, but just in case, we can go over the mechanism really quickly. Basically, it is a way to uh, allow validators to put money into the system, a little bit of put your money where your mouth is sort of thing. And so, what this will do is it will deter them from having or from trying to behave badly in the system. The way I like to explain staking usually, or let's say proof of work and proof of stake, is that if we take proof of work, let's do the analogy of running a marathon, right? So proof of work would be the equivalent of everybody trains for the marathon, everybody buys a gym membership, new shoes, wakes up early on the weekends, puts in the effort to have a good diet, maybe get a trainer. And so everybody makes all this effort, but in the end, there can only be one winner, right? And so a lot of this effort is arguably lost. Now, of course, everybody gets healthy as a benefit, but for the sake of this example, let's say that, this is something that is inefficient, right? So we have a lot of people spending a lot of time preparing, but only one winner. And that would be proof of work. When we talk about proof of stake, it's more like we say, well, you know what? Uh, we believe that Truth in Tales is the best runner in the group. The rest of us don't really stand a chance. And so, what we'll do is, between all of us, we'll help pay for Truth in Tales training, right? So, the shoes, the trainer, the gym membership, encourage weekend runs. And if Truth in Tales wins, then all of the winnings are distributed among us that supported um, them, him or her. I don't know if Truth entails. So this is a more efficient way to do things, right? This is a way to kind of um, focus efforts into what is most likely to be a winning position rather than everybody kind of putting in the effort for things that maybe they just don't really stand a chance, right? So we see again Ethereum gaining traction. Liquid restaking, of course, has been a big thing. This allows people to jump in and jump out, which is obviously a lot more flexible than if we talk about um, fixed periods, or even in real world assets if we talk about bonds, which usually have a vesting period. So you'll buy a bond that will mature in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and that will give you a return, right? So that is important. The other thing is the enhanced security models. So obviously, this is a big thing for us. What we're seeing now is new or similar protocols can borrow trust and security from larger networks. And what this does is it reduces the need to rebuild things that have already been created, and it allows these smaller players to benefit from having these security models into their platforms without having to make that huge investment. And so, one of the things, of course, that is rising is modular security. For those of you maybe not familiar with the word modular, it basically means you have different pieces that come together, right? So, a lot of the times we talk in blockchain or in DeFi, particularly about stacking operations, right? So, you may have different protocols that have figured out how to do something, and you want to take that protocol, you want to enhance it. And because usually things tend to be open source and you can go and check the code and use the code, then you can take that and, let's say, stack another block on top of it, and then maybe somebody can take that you've built and build something on top of that, right? So that's what we refer to when we talk about modular, is something that have different pieces that can come together in different ways to function. And then we have, of course, risk diversification, right? So by enhancing security, we are protecting ourselves from things like um, potential hacks. We're protecting ourselves from anything that could come and try to affect the overall ecosystem. Um, Benefits of restaking, again, I think these are, for those of you that know this, sorry, I know this is very obvious, but I know there's a lot of you that maybe don't. So, the first one is capital efficiency. So, as I mentioned, staked assets no longer remain idle. They are dynamically generating a passive return for their owners. And so, when we say, going back to the analogy of the marathon, basically it's a lot more efficient to put all of our money and efforts behind the person that we think in our group could win rather than all of us training, right? And so what this does is we will all help sponsor our chosen runner for the marathon. And by putting this money into them, once they or if they win and they generate money, then it generates a return for us without having had to train, right? Without having had to go into the gym, get a trainer, do those weekend runs. So it's a big thing. Capital efficiency, of course, is something that we're always looking for. So the last thing that we want is for capital to be sitting idle, in a wallet or even in a bank account, and not doing anything. So definitely restaking allows us to have a lot more efficiency when it comes to capital. Enhanced protocol trust. So new projects are using restaking as a way of bootstrapping security, right? So what we mean by that is we are making sure that the security that they are incorporating into their systems is security that they're either creating themselves or they're just copying from other players that have developed it already, and this, of course, reduces costs. And then finally, we have broader reach and adoption. Again, restaking allows us for creating a way of generating passive income, but it also allows us for the integration of established and robust validator sets, right? So in the case of DeepSafe, because we are a verification network, this is something that is very important to us, right? So making sure that all the information that we're working with is not only protected, but that it's also real to begin with. Moving on to the next topic, I think I kind of spoke about this one a little bit already, which is having that modular build, which is very important for the growth of blockchain. So modular blockchain architecture is a strategic shift in design where the responsibilities are divided in the different layers. And this is something that we, of course, are following very closely. So as you know, you have the execution layer, which is the one that handles transaction processing, smart contract execution, etc. We have the consensus layer, which is where we have the validation of transactions, where we make sure that the network agrees on a state or on there's consensus on what is the truth in the blockchain. We have then the data availability layer, and what that does is it allows us to make sure that we have accessible, verifiable transaction information. And finally, the settlement layer is what, at the end of the day, creates the final, let's say, log of the transaction, or if there's any dispute, that would go into dispute resolution. And so this separation of architecture really helps build new things without having to reinvent the wheel, for that matter. Now, in terms of the next trend that we are looking at, oh, sorry. So benefits, right? So what are the benefits of doing things this way? There's a few, right? Scalability, as I mentioned, is one of them. Things can grow faster. We have more efficient blockchains that don't incorporate parts that they don't need. It makes them more adaptable and easier to upgrade. It incorporates, having this modular part helps incorporate the interoperability of blockchains that are not compatible, which of course is one of the things that we focus on as DeepSafe, which we did already as Bull Network. And finally, the last one is flexibility, right? So it allows projects to optimize what resources they use. It allows them to kind of, as I mentioned, take existing programs, existing smart contracts, and use them for their advantage. You can see some examples there, but the number one example I think we all care about is DeepSafe, of course. And as you know, DeepSafe was built in a modular way precisely because we wanted to allow our users to incorporate the parts that they need and not the parts that they don't, so that their dApps or whatever protocol they're building is more efficient. Zero knowledge proof, as you guys probably know, is one of the main technologies that we use to protect information. In particular, we use it for making sure that nodes within the DeepSafe blockchain are selected to be part of the crypto random verification committee, or are selected as crypto random verification agents. And so zero knowledge proof and its developments are something that is very, very important for us. So these are basically privacy enhancing tools that enable faster, more secure, and more private transactions. So if anybody were to try to hack something like this, these tools allow for them not to know exactly what is in those transactions. They're very much used in layer 2s as well, not only in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but also in other blockchains. And the reason zero knowledge proof has gained so much traction is because there is a lot of real world use cases, right? So if you think about things like voting, if you think about recurring payments, anything that happens in a private way but needs to be verified can benefit from using zero knowledge. So some of the core properties, as you can see, there are completeness. So if the statement is true, the verifier is convinced by an honest prover. Soundness, so a dishonest prover cannot convince an honest verifier of a false statement, and this is very important. And then zero knowledge, right? The verifier gains no information except that the statement is correct. And if we look at how this works, we can see that ZKP can be interactive, so it can involve a back and forth between the prover and the verifier, or in the case of an AI agent, we can have back and forth between the AI agent and the prover and or verifier. And then we can also have single moments of proof or verification. Then through the use of mathematical methods and probability, we enable the validation without data exposure. So it's almost like if I were to say to you, well, I know a secret. I know a secret about DeepSafe. I can't tell you the secret, but I want to prove to you that I know a secret, right? And so, what zero knowledge proof does is it allows the other person to know that I know the secret without revealing what the secret is. So, as you can imagine, this is extremely important. This is one of the areas where we see a lot of growth in terms of blockchain moving towards this, and we see zero knowledge proof being incorporated as something that is no longer optional, but rather one of the core technologies within blockchain. Um, then we have DeFi and the evolution of DAOs. As you can imagine, this is also a topic that is very important for us. We have enabled the Bitcoin blockchain to participate in DeFi without having the risk of transferring the ownership of the assets or custody of the assets. With the integration of AI, we've seen a lot of protocols automating a lot of their operations, in particular with market making, so in trading, as well as lending. And so um, risk management, risk assessment becomes very, very important, and this is something that we've seen with AI. Cross-chain interoperability has been a topic that we have managed from the beginning, and basically it's just making sure that two blockchains that are not compatible can actually talk to each other and execute transactions across the different blockchains that are not only accurate, but that actually happen, right? If any of you were early adopters of blockchain like I was, you might have gone through the the painful and expensive mistake of realizing that not all blockchains talk to each other, right? I remember when I first started, I tried sending from Ethereum to Solana, and of course, I never saw that back. Luckily, it was just a test, but it is something that, you know, at the beginning was a little bit harder to navigate, and now with the evolution of technologies like DeepSafe, this is becoming a lot more seamless. Um, Singleton liquidity primitives, so consolidate liquidity into single contracts for modular financial products. So again, going back to the modular, what this does is it allows us to kind of take funds that might be underutilized or are not efficiently being used and put them to use in a place where they might be more efficient. And of course, we already talked about real world asset tokenization. In terms of DAOs, we've seen mainstream adoption. So usually they tended to be very niche. DAOs were something that was kind of obscure in the world of blockchain because everybody understood that it was a decentralized, autonomous organization, but nobody really knew what that meant, and nobody knew how that worked, right? I remember at the beginning of blockchain when people said, well, you know, everyone gets to vote, and people said, vote where, and who decides, and who puts up things to vote, and you know, and I think those of you that have a little bit more of a trajectory in blockchain have become more used to how this works. But you know, we've seen a lot of mainstream adoption, and so what this does is it creates new governance frameworks that are a lot more efficient in terms of decision making. It allows broader, let's say, security because you're dealing with smart contracts which can be audited, as opposed to, let's say, having people vote, um, you know, even if it's online, right? It can be compromised, and so having DAOs evolve and integrating them into DeFi, so the management of liquidity pools, protocol upgrades. We see this, for example, in lending protocols that decide, you know, what to charge for lending, how much to pay for people that are depositing or staking funds that are being lent, and then we see this evolving very well in the future. So I see a couple of questions. Um, the TGE, yes, I will address at the end. how many projects have been integrated into DeepSafe? Um, whew, there's been a lot. Yes, I could name, for example, we have integrated Lorenzo restaking protocol. Um, we have integrated Babylon restaking. We have integrated, I want to say at this point, it's definitely over 20 blockchains. We've integrated BitLayer. We've integrated um, B squared. We've integrated wallets like MetaMask and all the kind of large ones. There is quite a big list, actually, um, so big that I don't know it off of the top of my head, but I'm happy to share a little bit more information in terms of that. Let me just have a look and pull out a little bit more data for you. But so this integration, of course, is what we strive for. It is really what we want to do. And so going back to the modular design, going back to cross-chain interoperability, although all those are things that we are integrated into our project. In terms of the latest developments, I think that what we have seen really is just a lot of more mainstream adoption, technology upgrades, a lot more interoperability, institutional integration, which is a big one I mentioned at the beginning of the stream. One of the things that I'm keeping an eye out for is regulation changes in the U.S. So if the applications of Ethereum, Solana, and others that have presented applications for ETFs goes through, we are definitely going to see a big spike in their prices. We have seen a very kind of roller coastery ride of Bitcoin, but the truth is, when you look at kind of what happens after the halving of the rewards, it is quite common that we see a big spike, which is where we saw it go up to, I think, like 127 or so. And then we see the drop, where we saw it closer to 100, right? And then things tend to even out a bit, and that's kind of what we've seen now. Um, how critical is cross-chain interoperability for accelerating DeFi adoption in 2025? Oof, it's absolutely critical. Think about it in the terms of, let's think about it in traditional finance terms, right? So it's kind of like saying, well, how important is it for banks to be able to talk to another, right? So how important is it for HSBC to be able to talk to Citibank, to be able to talk to, um, I don't know, Deutsche Bank or ING, right? So if these systems that are actually connected, the banking is connected through what's called the SWIFT system. If the systems from these different banks couldn't talk to each other, then you wouldn't be able to make a money wire to someone that has an account in a different bank than yours, because the system just wouldn't talk to each other, right? Whereas right now, it really is as simple as going into your online banking. If you have the information for the other person's bank, even if it's not the same as yours, you can do this, right? So interoperability is what's going to allow funds to move from different blockchains without the risk of losing assets. And this is an area where DeepSafe excels. In fact, we are the only, as far as I know, protocol that allows for users to retain custody of their crypto while participating. And in particular, I would say it's super important for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts, as we know. And so what we had was a lot of money sitting idle in the Bitcoin blockchain because their owners, either Bitcoin whales or maybe even institutional, that had it on their balance sheet, institutional Bitcoin holders, couldn't really do anything with it because it was too risky to use a bridge to, let's say, cross over to Ethereum where you could take advantage of DeFi. But what happened if that bridge went rogue or if it disappeared? Basically, you would be left with your wrapped Bitcoin on the new blockchain. And yes, you have the equivalent of the value, but if what you need is to have your BTC, then you were in a bit of a pickle because you were not going to get that back. And so we have actually solved that problem. And what we've done is we've created escape hatches and time locks that allow users to participate, or let's say have these cross chain operations happen without having to transfer custody of their assets to the bridge that they're using. And this is actually very, very big. In fact, when we started the project, I think the estimation was that it would open around $1 trillion in capital that could be now deployed into DeFi, for which around 550 million US dollars, if I'm not mistaken, were directly, um, let's say, within the realm of uh, Deep Safe. And so this is really one of the really, really big um, things that that is going to come in 2025. I mean, this is as basic as having just different, like I said, banks or institutions talking to each other. I'm gonna look for the integrations in the meantime. If you guys have any questions, by all means, please feel free. I know there is one about the TGE, which you're all waiting to hear about, so let's address that. I'm happy to say we've made considerable progress. Um, if if you guys have been following what's been going on our official channel, you've seen that there is a collaboration happening with OKX. So that is obviously one of the most prestigious and most important um, centralized exchanges that is out there. We're talking to other players as well. I can tell you that we've secured already two offers from um, these very large players. We are waiting for two more. Once we have that, we'll be able to make the announcement, the exact announcement on when and where the token will be listed. Of course, we're working to make this happen as soon as possible. I'm weary of giving, exact dates because, as you know, we've been trying to make this happen for a long time. But as you can appreciate, there's a lot of not only um, regulatory hurdles that we have to deal with, and a lot of times this is not in our control. As to, we have to wait for answers, we have to wait for um, verification sometimes from either lawyers or participants within the system, or even the centralized exchanges themselves, where they have a process that we can't just accelerate as much as we wish we could. We try to be as insistent as we can with these guys without being annoying and getting on their bad side, because we also don't want to be blacklisted. But there is a considerable amount of work that unfortunately does not depend on us, and the situation right now is there. So, as I mentioned, two of the very large exchanges have already completed their due diligence of our project, and we're very happy with it. We got some very good offers. We're waiting for two more to complete the process, and once that's done, we'll make the selection of to what is the more, let's say, suitable exchange for us to list, at least originally. Um, I agree, self-custody solutions are essential. Um, Anything that, and if you guys as users, at any point have to use a bridge, or if you guys are using any sort of, let's say, restaking protocol, or you're using your BTC as collateral for issuing a stable coin or any sort of coin, but in particular stable coins, make sure that whatever protocol you're working with is stable, reputable, solid, has been around for a while, has appropriate liquidity, because this is something that is a problem. It happens, right? And it's not just for Bitcoin whales or institutional holders. This can happen to anyone. And so this is something that it is very, very important to use, but also to make sure that you do your own research in terms of the solutions that you use. Let's see. In previous AMAs, it's been told that airdrops will be given only by staking SDEF. How many years has it been planned to completely distribute airdrop rewards? There is a timeline. I think it has been published. I don't have it in front of me, but I can tell you that the vesting period for these rewards is the shortest of all. Um, because you guys are our supporters, our community, and really our efforts, our number one priority is you guys. So I can tell you that in terms of, let's say, miners, investors, us as the team, strategic partnerships, um, all of those will vest after the staked SDEF, um, or sorry, the rewards have been vested and are tradable completely and distributed. Nah, it won't be 55 years. I could promise you that. If it is, I won't be around, so you won't be able to blame me. But no, of course not. I understand. I understand people want this to happen right away. I understand that sometimes we all get impatient. I can guarantee you guys that nobody wants this to happen faster than us. I dream of the day where I can finally, come online and tell you guys that it's been done, and every day that passes a day we're closer to it. But now the vesting period will be quite short. In fact, I think you guys might be surprised. And the listing, again, we already have two options. If the other two options that we're considering don't get back to us within literally 2 or 3 weeks, we will be making a decision. And then we have to wait again. There are things that are outside of our control. So, for example, TGEs for a lot of these issuers don't happen whenever you want them to. They have set dates. So, for example, if they complete their due diligence by September 1st, they can include you in the October 1st TGE um, bundle. And so it's frustrating for us. Of course, we'd like to have things happen immediately, and given everything that we've had to go through in terms of due diligence, there's a lot of scrutiny, as you can imagine, for these listers or for these exchanges. There is a huge reputational risk, and so they are very, very careful in terms of which projects they accept. And we're talking to one currently that I believe only accepts six a year, so one every 2 months. We're hoping to secure that, and we're hoping that once we've been approved, they won't make us wait those 2 months. We're hoping that things will happen faster because it has been a very long process. I mean, it's of course, we can't reveal things right now, but once that's done, I think we'll be able to share with you guys what this process is. I don't know if any of you on the chat have ever tried to list a token. I can tell you guys, I've done this quite a few times before. To be honest with you, things used to be a lot easier. I think the scrutiny has gotten a lot, a lot more strict, which again is understandable. There's been so many rug pulls. There's been so many bad players that, of course, nobody wants to be associated with that. And I remember there was a time where, Binance was known as the place where, unreliable coins were issued. Um, and so, they definitely want to avoid that. Yeah, listen, hey, aren't we all working for our kids or grandkids, right? No, but again, guys, I get it. I know everybody's frustrated. I wish I could give you a different answer. As I said, nobody wants this to happen faster than me. Um, but unfortunately, there are things that are outside of our control. We try to give you as many updates as we can, but again, there are so many confidentiality agreements. There are so many different legal requirements. We have to deal with a lot of lawyers. We have to deal with accountants. We have to deal with a lot of secrecy, and a lot of these processes are secret. We can't tell you what the different exchanges require from us. um, because it's not public information. And so we've signed documents that prevent us from um, having that. Final snapshot dates. That is a great question. To be honest with you, I don't know if Virgil is on the chat. Let me just make sure, because I don't have that information. I know that they're working on it. As you can probably imagine, there's a lot of things happening, and we can't all be on all of them at once. But let me see if I can get you an answer right away. Let's see. Let's text these guys. Um, See if we can get you some answers. Uh, when is the final snapshot? All right. Hopefully, I'll get an answer right away, and I can give it to you. I know we're starting to run short on time, so Supreme Cash, um, if I don't have an answer to you, or sorry, an answer for you um, in this stream, please by all means reach out to me. All of my information, I think, is available. So you can reach out to me and I will give you the information. Yeah, it seems that because of time differences, I don't know if everybody is online. Online, sorry. Um, Final snapshots. I think I'm gonna owe you an answer to that. Um, Supreme Cash, please reach out to me directly. My email is Raul, Raul, at deepsafe.network. Send me an email or reach out to me on Telegram so that I have your contact, and I will give you the information as soon as I have it. I think that has been settled, so I should be able to give you that. It's just I think the other guys are currently in a meeting. But yeah. Um, Listen, I would love to say it's not, but the truth is I can't commit to anything because I can't. I wish I could tell you guys. I really wish I could give you guys some answers. But I think that once we've completed this process, once we can share with you guys everything that we're working on in the background, you'll understand why this has taken so long. I have to admit, it's even surprised us. We always leave a buffer in case things don't work out the way we expect them to, and that buffer has already been exceeded more than twice. So we really are working as hard as we can. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer. But again, please, um, Supreme Cash, reach out to me, and I will get you an answer to that. Um, I think we're over time, but I wanted just to thank all of you guys for coming online, for listening to what we're discussing. As I mentioned, we'll make these a lot more frequent and we'll discuss different topics. So today was a little bit about giving you an insight as to, a CEO, what I look into in terms of trends, what I've seen, what we try to identify, how we interpret this information, relate it back to what we do in Deep Safe. Um, the next one, we will talk more about the project. So I'll make sure I make note of highlighting the integrations that we have done already so that I can answer that question. And again, Supreme Cash, please just reach out to me and I'll get an answer to your question as soon as possible. So with that, thank you guys again. I hope to see you all in the next one. We'll talk about the project and a little bit more about what's going on with that, the integrations, the growth, the plans, and what the vision is. And of course, any additional information I can share with you guys about the TGE, hopefully by then, I will. As soon as I can, you guys have my word. As I mentioned, nobody wants this to happen faster than me. I can promise you that. Um, so with that, give you a hint. Listen, I would love to say it. We are aligned for it happening next month. That's the timeline, to be transparent with you, that we're managing. But again, right now, at this stage, we have done everything we can from our side, and we have to wait for um, the counterparty to get back to us. And so, unfortunately, we can't rush them too much, or we'll just be blacklisted for being annoying. but that's what I can share with you. I can share with you that the timeline that we're managing internally is next month, but I can also tell you that, and to be clear, it's towards the end of next month. Um, but I don't want to promise you anything. If any information becomes available, I will absolutely share it with you guys immediately. Um, Hopefully, this will be it. And one day we will make a Netflix special on all the trials and tribulations of listing the token in a top exchange. So let's you missed the TGE updates, Wasim. We're looking at the timeline. I mentioned we are getting back to Supreme Cash in terms of the final snapshot dates. And we're just waiting on third parties. So we're waiting on our counterparty, the exchanges on the other side, to finish their due diligence, to finish their legal work, so that we can be approved. And right now, it's outside of our hands, as I've been saying. The nobody wants this to happen more than me, or faster than me. But unfortunately, at this stage, we've done everything from our side that's required from us, and we answer all these questions, and they come back with more questions, and we answer and come back with more, and you kind of wish they would ask you everything at once. Um, but we have to kind of manage their times. The legal due diligence is quite extensive, as you can imagine. Um, but yeah, we'll definitely share information with you guys as soon as possible. Yes, I will share with you guys the snapshot dates in the next live stream. Absolutely. And if we have the information before, I'll ask the team to post it on the official channel. If we have the information before that. Um, let's see, Supreme Cash, last question. I see on DeepSafe Beta mainnet, version 1 indicate minimum vote rights. 200 def in final stage will be decreased as amount of voting rights. Yes, those voting rights we will be revising. Of course, we want to make sure that we don't punish any, let's say, smaller holders. Obviously, everybody has different portfolios and different types of setups, and so we want to make sure that the voting is done in the most equitable and fair way. So there will definitely be there will be some of that, and we will address that when we talk. Um, all right, so in time for Christmas, hey man, me too. Yeah, if it doesn't happen by honestly, I mean, I don't know what else we can provide these guys. I don't know what else. From our own personal backgrounds to the company to audits of smart contracts to our token model to airdrops, distribution, investor vesting and team vesting periods, and it really has been very, very, very deep. And as I said, if I put on the exchange hats, I can understand why, right? No exchange wants to be associated with a rug pull, because it'll ruin their reputation. And so, in my opinion, they've kind of gone a little bit too far. It used to be too easy, now it's too hard, to the point where it's becoming inefficient. But so we will update you guys as soon as we have that. So with that, thank you guys for tuning in. We will talk soon again. Thank you for your questions. And again, for those of you who have questions that have been unanswered, I've taken notes, and we will make sure to go through those the next time. All right, so have a good day, a good night, or a good evening, wherever you guys are, and we'll